Hey guys, on this video I'm going to be reviewing the first episode of a new comedy series called Feel Good, I should say. So this is going to be my review of episode 1, which I literally just watched, so I'm coming to you quite fresh on this review. And it's a new Channel 4 series. And the setup is quite basic. You have this stand-up comedian Canadian called Mae, and she's played by Mae Martin. So I think I sense that maybe she's a real-life stand-up comedian, and that this is one of those type of deals. And she is a recovering drug addict at the start of the series. And in the first scene, we see her having like a stand-up performance and quite awkward, quite very sort of nervous, and she meets this girl Georgia, who's played by Richie, and they really hit it off. They talk at the bar later, and they go back to Georgia's place, and they get together and they form this really close bond and relationship. But things escalate because at the start anyway, Georgia doesn't know about Mae's addiction, about the fact that she's like recovering and expected to go to like AA meetings and stuff like that. But we kind of see how important they are to each other, and we see their like separate lives, if you like, particularly Georgia, the fact that I think she's kind of in a rut in a different way to Mae, you know. And also the other crucial detail which I can't leave out is that Georgia, this is her first like gay lesbian relationship. She was previously heterosexual, so this is her first time, so she feels like she's really taking the plunge. And that's the basic setup. So I'll just talk about the episode, go into spoilers, because it's difficult to really talk about this without giving details. I think it's worth saying this as like a new Channel 4 series, particularly as a comedy. It definitely has the feel of like quite a realistic sort of drama, but I think as you watch more of it, you'll definitely see the comedic sort of moments. Like, for example, Georgia has this like really sort of weird, quirky roommate called what was his name? I think it was Phil. That's it. I've looked at my notes quickly. Phil, roommate, and there's definitely some like awkward but funny moments that come from him. So I think there is like a dramatic side to it. I think there are darker elements, or there's certainly going to be darker elements, but I think it probably chiefly is a comedy, but it's going to like sort of tread those two sides quite sort of carefully. But yes, as I was saying, it's worth talking about it as a Channel 4 production because, you know, over the years in the past, I think Channel 4 had this reputation of really producing cutting-edge drama, but particularly comedy, I guess, in a way. I think a lot of the really good homegrown British comedies have come from Channel 4 over the past, whatever you want to say, 15, 20 years. And in the past, they've given home to really interesting cutting-edge drama. Like, they were the channel who showed My So-Called Life, for example, back in the 90s. It was on Channel 4 where I first discovered 6 Feet Under, or at least where I first watched it. And they currently show The Handmaid's Tale, so good example. And obviously with something like Film 4, at least originally Film 4 has this history, this reputation. And I think maybe they've lost a bit of that over the years. Maybe they've just been overshadowed by there's so many other places now for like these niche sort of programs, and they've just gone maybe a bit too soft or a bit too mainstream and not quite maintained the same sort of standard. But I guess something like this shows they can still do it, which basically gives away. I enjoyed the first episode, and there's only 6 in this season, so yeah. Since I enjoyed this first one, I might as well watch all of them and review them for the channel. They're only like half an hour long, so that's not too long. You could probably binge it as long as you enjoy it. I know all episodes are up now on, I think it's Awful, they call like their streaming service. But yeah, the opening stand-up scene I think really sets the stage quite nicely. I think it's a really natural performance from Mae Martin. I think you can probably see if she is like a real stand-up comedian. I think that comes across. I think she has this very like understated but quite sort of witty, acerbic like delivery to her lines, and I think it's that thing how most good stand-ups have some sort of like distinct sort of tone or style. I think some of them, it is part of their act to be quite sort of awkward, although obviously with the story in this, I think there's more to it because of her addiction and her issues. It's made her more nervous, more kind of just rough sort of energy. But I think that bleeds into the performance, so maybe you couldn't tell the difference. But it's a very low key sort of scene, and I think it gives like the impression of a very realistic sort of club stand up type of gig. And it definitely paints, I think, quite a realistic picture of what, being a job in stand-up is. I mean, later on in the episode, there's a scene where she's waiting for her set, and you get this other, like, sleazy comedian who's just really gross and just over the top, who's, like, before her. And you can so imagine there's, like, stand-ups like that who, like, he's a real jerk to her when he comes off stage. So I like how authentic like those scenes feel and how awkward she is. And the touch I really like in the opening scene is that Georgia is there with like a friend, and we see that Georgia's quite enjoying Mae's performance, and then her friend is just being like a bit of a jerk because she's on her phone all the time. And Mae, in like classic stand-up comedian fashion, picks her up on it and is just like, do you mind getting off your, like, your effing phone, or what? Why are you on your phone? And she says, I'm not texting, I'm playing Candy Crush. And Mae has some sort of line like, well, did my mother pay you or something? But I just like that little detail there, because that does feel very realistic. Partly how some people during a performance like that can be quite rude and kind of would be on their phone and not paying attention, but also the way the stand-up performer would get on their case about it, because I've seen that happen at like a stand-up show I was at. So it does feel again quite true to life, but it's also a nice little dramatic setup for Mae meeting Georgia, because it sets up the fact that Georgia maybe is unsatisfied with her life because she hangs around with quite obnoxious people, and at the same time, she hasn't told them, then she's essentially has this new like sexual identity as like a gay woman. She's still pretending that she's. I mean, I guess maybe she could be bi. I'm not too sure, but anyway, she hasn't told them. Then she's exploring this other like path. So I think it sets that up nicely. The position Georgia is in, and when she starts talking to Mae at the bar, it's a really cute scene because they start playing this game where they just ask like questions about their lives, rapid fire sort of questions, and they go back to their apartment because Mae has like the guy who actually runs the stand up place and like or the MC who like introduces the comedians. Is the person that Mae's staying with, and I sort of like the fact that he's like asking Mae when they're talking at the bar, "Can I expect you home tonight?" or should I set up the pull out sort of thing? And obviously Mae's like trying to get rid of him and like yeah, I'm in the middle of a conversation here. I don't know where I'll be later. So it's quite a funny little awkward scene. But they have this chemistry, and I think you can see that in the performances, and their scenes are like really charming, nicely observed, and yeah, they go home and have sex, but we then move forward to it must be a few weeks later because they're moving in together and things are going great, but then they take a turn because there's a Skype call with Mae and her parents and her mother. I instantly recognise Lisa Kudrow, who I absolutely love. So that's a great. She's one of these actresses. Obviously, she's still best known for Friends and a few other things, but I think she does like make these cameos appearances, and she's always good value. I mean, I think she's been in some choice like indie films like The Opposite of Sex, and I mean more mainstream, but a very enjoyable feel-good comedy like Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion, which I absolutely love. It's a good, just forget your troubles type film just to enjoy. I remember watching it actually like the night after Trump got elected. It was like the perfect film to take my mind off that. But yeah, Lisa Kudrow plays Mae's mother, and we see her and her father, and they're back in Canada, so it's a Skype call. But always great to see Lisa Kudrow. But she's not the most sensitive of character, and she lets slip about Mae. Then she should be going to AA meetings. So it's the reveal that to Georgia that Mae has an addiction, which Georgia is obviously upset at first because Mae didn't tell her about this. And I think you just see it in Mae's body language how awkward she is, and there's this clever idea of it's this blurring this line between what's her kind of putting on a persona or character, what's her being like her natural sort of funny self, and is she just using it as a front sometimes. But anyway, George is very supportive and suggests, hey, if we're going to make this work, you have to be honest with me, but you also have to go to the meetings. So she does, but then she meets someone even more crazy than her, and that's Maggie, this girl who she strikes up this thing with after Mae storms out a meeting, and Maggie becomes her sponsor, which is, well, it's scary because by the end of the episode, she's like texting Mae constantly and seems to have become a bit of a stalker. Now, there's two standout moments, I think, when it comes to comedy. One is because Mae and Georgia have like a falling out, And I mean, actually, in the previous scene, but Georgia talks to her roommate Phil, her housemate, who apparently, because one of the jokes in that scene is like, this is the first time we've ever actually had a conversation. And she's like, oh, great. And he's like, yeah, friends. And then she's like, yeah, okay. And then she walks off and he's like, how about brunch tomorrow? She's like, no. So really funny. But he gives her advice because she's feeling like distance between her and Mae. And Phil's wonderful advice is that they should, or George should make the house feel more Canadian to go with Mae. And I absolutely love the next scene because Georgia is in like a Toronto t-shirt, but even funnier, Phil's like off to the side and he's dressed as a Mountie, which is absolutely brilliant. So I can see really enjoying his like sort of like quirky character on the side. But they do have a fight over the whole AA thing, and things coming to a head over that. And then they go off, and we see an example of them kind of, again, their own separate lives, and particularly Georgia's, how she's still adapting to being like a lesbian. And there's this really funny but awkward sort of karaoke scene when she's there with her friends, and we see the annoying girl who was on the phone earlier, and of course bad karaoke, like she's singing the Spice Girls, and well, kind of making the Spice Girls sound like yeah, musical icons and geniuses really. But yeah, obviously bad karaoke singing is a staple of like TV and film, and it never gets old, to be fair. It's very hard to butcher it. But yeah, this creepy guy is sort of hitting on Georgia, and she makes it clear that she's not really interested, so she's in a relationship. And when he keeps on with the advances, she's like, oh, it's my turn to do karaoke. So she starts singing, and it's that song "It Takes Two." And not taking a hint, the other guy, I think his name's Darren or something, like grabs the mic and starts singing the next line, and George is like, "Fuck off, Darren," and shoves him back and goes back to song. So I thought that was really funny. But that scene is kind of like the thing for Georgia that makes her go back to Mae, and they end up together. But there's going to be rough patches, and the last scene is like Mae in bed, and she gets a text from Maggie, who's acting all stalkerish. So yeah, there you have it. So you kind of sense there is darker stuff coming, but good first episode. I enjoyed it a lot. So I'd recommend checking out. It's called Feel Good. It's a new Channel 4 comedy / drama, and as I said, all episodes are up on all 4, or you can check it out once a week. It's on every Wednesday, that's the day today, and it's on at 10 o'clock each week. So they have it. I'm gonna probably watch and review the whole series because, as I said, 6 episodes. I'm enjoying it now. I think there are some things maybe which it could still maybe not pan out so great, but so far I'm enjoying it. So I'll do more of these, and I'll be back with more film and TV reviews coming up soon. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys again soon. Let me know what you thought of Feel Good in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again soon.